7:29, and
I'm just going by it.
I have read them.
I have stopped and you know, letters and what you can. I'm my body.
Why did you get rid of the old one? Entirety?
No. All this is
Fine, I read that.
okay, all this is fine.
I'll look at
Staff reports, okay, get rid of them.
Oh, it's just a-
Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I got you now.
I got 1 minute. If I could get everybody, we're gonna start here in a minute. I want, like to have everybody get in your position where you're gonna be at, start calming down. So, well, there's a lot of noise and I mean, we're gonna run a tight ship this evening, so just want everybody just to get ready for the meeting here that's gonna start in a few seconds, so.
If anybody has lost time there, please find them on the back of the there, thank you.
At this time, we're going to call the Raleigh County Planning Board and the Board of Zoning Appeals to order.
Wait for Lisa. Oh,
Okay. At this time, I'd like to welcome everybody this evening. We got a couple items on the agenda this evening. I'd like for everybody to be calm and courtesy to everybody that's speaking tonight. And at that time, I will have Diane read the rules for the public comment session. And I would like for everybody to listen to these very well because I will stick by the rules here this evening for this as I do every meeting. So Diane.
okay, the Riley County Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals, rules for public comment sessions. The following applies to all meetings of the Riley County Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals. 1, public comment shall be limited to no more than 5 minutes for each speaker. The time limit does not include questions asked by board members. The chair reserves the right to extend speaker time should the situation warrant doing so. 2, all comments should be directed at the board. 3, all speakers must go up to the podium to make comments stating their full name and address before beginning. 4, public comments shall be made only during the designated time on the agenda at any public meeting. Public comments are out of order if made outside of the designated time on the agenda of a public meeting, and without the speaker having been first been recognized by the chair. 5, remarks of individual speakers shall not be simply repetitive of individual comments made by prior speakers. 6, verbal and visual personal attacks on private citizens, staff, or board members shall not be allowed. Speakers who violate any one or more of these rules will be asked to end their comments, and speakers or non-speakers but who attend the meeting, whose conduct disrupts the orderly and dignified content of any public meeting at any time, will be asked by the chair to leave such meeting.
Thank you, Diane. At this time, I will open up, as we do each meeting, for public comment. And by this, it's anything besides what's on the agenda this evening. If none, we will proceed. Our second item on the agenda this evening is the consent agenda. And does the board have any questions or anything for Bob, Amanda, or Lisa?
I've read through the minutes, didn't find anything to discuss this evening. It's good to me.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we consider the minutes for the March 13th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Do I have a motion for the report of fees for the month of March?
I'll move that the board accept the reported fees for the month of March 2023.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the report of fees for the month of March. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Since we do not have any agenda items for the Board of Zoning Appeals, do I have a motion to a motion to adjourn the joint meeting of the Raleigh County Planning and Board and Board of Zoning Appeals due to lack of no agenda for the Board of Zoning Appeals and convene as Raleigh County Planning Board?
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we move on to the Raleigh County Planning Board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. First item of business this evening is a replat petition 2300 for David and Susan McCullers. The replat lots 1 and 8 of Skyview Ranch subdivision into one single lot. Bob?
Thank you, sir. Thanks. Thank you. Everyone wanted to hear this one. Good evening, folks. Bob Isaac, Raleigh County Planning Planner. David and Susan McCullers have made application with Raleigh County Planning and Development requesting to replat lot 1 and lot 8 of Skyview Ranch subdivision, combining the lots into one. The subject property was platted as lots 1 and 2 of 1 and 8 of Skyview Ranches, a 13-lot subdivision development in May of 1976. The property was rezoned from G1 General Agricultural to A4 Single-Family Residential in June of 1976 as well. The lots were never developed. The applicant wishes to combine the two lots into a single lot to center the construction of a residence on the subject property. The subject site is generally located approximately 1,920 feet north of Anderson Avenue on the east side of West 60th Avenue in Wildcat Township. The property was rezoned from G1 General Agricultural to A4 Single Family Residential in June of 1976 and has been zoned single family residential since that time. There is no request or requirement to rezone the property at this time, and there are no variances, special uses, or conditional uses associated with the site. Raleigh County Fire District Number 1 will serve the site. The nearest county fire station is the Conza Valley Fire Station, which is located at 300 Johnson Road. The subject site is located within 5 road miles of the fire station. An unnamed creek, a second order stream, runs along the northern portion of the subject property. According to section 6.3 of the Raleigh County Land Development Regulations, all new development shall be required to provide a 50-foot riparian buffer, zone 1, and a 25-foot buffer 2 along all second order streams. These areas are shown on the final plat and shall be subject to the requirements of that section. This is the final plat illustrating the new orientation and location of the lot's boundaries. The property abuts and directly accesses Crest Bridge Circle, which is maintained by the township. Although there are no utility easements that are in need of vacating, there is a request to vacate the existing building envelope shown on the plat, as building setback requirements are governed by the zoning district and not shown on plats. Additionally, the driveway that serves the property north of the subject site is located along the east line of existing lot 8, along here. And inexplicably, the travel easement that was in place for the driveway was vacated in 1980. Efforts are currently underway between the applicant and the neighbor to get the official travel easement put back into place. Finally, the plat shows the riparian buffers for the second order stream mentioned earlier. Okay, pictures of the site. This is looking east along the north right of way line of Preston Bridge Circle. With the lots to the right of the photo. Another little shot looking northeasterly as I pan to my right picture. And the shot of the property there, and you can kind of see the northern edge. It has the creek kind of just meanders around a nice level spot between the two lots there. And this is a pick of the driveway that serves the property to the north. The fence line shown here is not actually the east line of the property. This is the east line of the property. Yeah. So staff recommends that the planning board approve the final plat of Skyview Ranches Unit 3 as it has been determined that it meets the minimum requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations and the sanitary code. That's all I have. It's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions for me, glad to field those.
So why, I got a question for you. So why did they vacate that road when that goes to that house up there?
I believe that the house wasn't there just yet. I don't know. My supposition is that the owners of the trust that the house is sitting on here, this property up here, they owned all of this too. So it's kind of like,
Oh, they did own it
yeah.
at one time? Okay,
And so they decided they evidently didn't think they needed a travel easement to cross their own property.
probably not.
Okay, that's my ball for.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Dave McCullers.
Oh, yes.
My wife and I we currently live in Oklahoma. As far as the easement was concerned, the gentleman that owned the land to the north, Mr. Orbison, who has recently passed away, he bought the two lots that we bought from him. So the easement was no longer needed. That's why it was vacated. As far as what date it was, I do not know. But Harry did buy that land, so the easement was on his own property, so he no longer needed it. We have filed the paperwork to reinstate the trust, and we've already talked to the neighbors, and they're aware that we're going to get the easement put back legally back into place.
Okay, so you feel that there's not gonna be any issue with that then?
No, no,
From what you, okay, that's what that was more one of my concerns.
no, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in there, but I.
No, that's fine. No,
I could
that's
help
fine.
out.
Yes.
So will that driveway go to the house that's back further
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well as your property?
Actually, our driveway as we planned it is going to be off of the circle. To the south, the center of the south side of our the two lots if they're put together.
Okay.
The easement is on the east side, and we're gonna, with the exception of the family of Harry Orbison, maintaining that road, it's gonna stay in place just like it is now.
Okay.
Is there any other opponents? At this time, within 1,000 proponents, excuse me, within 1,000 feet that would like to say anything? Is there any opponents within 1,000? All right. If not, you guys have any other questions? Or feel that we can go into deliberation mode, or
I don't have any question. Yeah, I don't have.
no, you got any questions?
I do not.
Looks pretty forward to me. As I say, good housekeeping,
Yes,
so
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the public hearing, go into deliberative mode.
it's been moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go close the public hearing and go into our deliberation mode. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? 4-0. All right, Diane, you got anything?
No, I mean, I just had the question about the road there, if it was gonna be more than one, but he's using that other, so.
Joe?
And no questions? Anything's been answered?
No.
So I'll go ahead and move to approve the request of replat of lot 1 and lot 8 of Skyview Ranches subdivision into a single lot to be known as Skyview Ranches Unit 3, as it has been determined that it meets the requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request to replat lot 1 and 8 of Skyview Ranches subdivision into one single lot known as Skyview Ranches Unit 3 that has been determined and meets all the Raleigh County requirements of development and regulations. Is there any other discussion? Not. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, 4-0. All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Hey, real quick,
Bob?
Board of County Commission will hear this request Thursday, April 20th at 10:30 a.m. in these chambers.
Hey,
So this will- Thank you. You have no instructions.
all right, Bob.
Bob, you're gonna finish.
Is the Mylar signed and the,
Don't know yet.
oh,
This is the next one. I'm gonna pass that down.
All right, this time we'll move on to our second item of business. To remove from the table a public hearing to consider the request of Evergy Kansas Central Incorporated. So at this time, I'm gonna need a motion
I
to
so move.
take it from the table.
Take it from the table. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we take the motion or the agenda item from the table. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, 4-0. Bob, would you give us the staff report on petition 23007?
Anyone have some batteries? Seriously?
is that one there? That's my house, that one.
Look in the drawers here and see if there's any batteries.
Oh, you are here?
I thought you were like.
Well, I have no.
Seven. Take a while.
How many do you need?
Is that
Needed.
what it is?
What do you need? Bob?
It's two double A batteries.
He's got some.
Oh, thanks everybody for coming up.
I need two double A batteries.
Don't carry it with me. You don't have any with you?
And there goes the day.
Next time, Bob, you need to come with batteries.
No, just when you think you're prepared.
Oh, before Bob gets started, I'd like for everybody to turn their cell phones off so we don't have any ringing or beeping or stuff during this hearing this evening.
Okay, good evening, folks, once again. This is a public hearing to consider the request made by Evergy Central Kansas Inc. for a special use authorization to establish and operate an electrical substation. This is to let everyone know this is how it works. This is a recommendation by this board. The planning board will make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners on it, much like a rezoning. So the site, the proposed location for the Conzo substation is a tract of land and located immediately west of the intersection Conzo Prairie Lane and McDowell Creek Road on the north side of McDowell Creek Road. According to the applicant, the proposed Conzo substation will increase the reliability, serviceability, and load of Energy's electrical system in the city of Manhattan, Riley County, and surrounding areas. The new substation will contain equipment that function as switches and breakers and will allow personnel to perform maintenance on the transmission lines and substation equipment without subjecting customers to unnecessary outages. So more specifically than just an electrical substation, this is a switching station, it's slightly different. The subject site is zoned AG agricultural and has been zoned as such since at least 1974. Most of the property surrounding the site is also zoned AG agricultural, shown here in gray. There are no conditional uses, variances, and other special uses that are associated with the site. What you see in the green there is a single family residential in that instance. Raleigh County Fire District number 1 will serve the site. The nearest county fire station is the Ashland Fire Station, which is located at 2881 West 32nd. This map shows the location of the existing station and the location of the new Ashland Fire Station as well. That too was a special request that was a special yes, the special use authorization that was approved. This is the site plan illustrating the orientation and location of the lot's boundaries in relation to the proposed substation. A new entrance is planned to serve the site, moving it west from the existing agricultural entrance across from the Konza Prairie entrance. The county engineer has reviewed the site plan and suggested to change the stormwater runoff from a single point collection to controlled collection runoff to a sheet runoff, which as it will be less likely to cause erosion and ditching issues. This is an example of an electrical switch station submitted by the applicant. Although this is much larger than the one proposed, it's just an example of how it's laid out as far as poles, wires, and so on, and ancillary structures. Few pictures of the site itself. This is looking north along the west line of the subject site. Notice the existing 115 volt power lines transecting the property from north to south. And that's these right here. This is the tie-in. This is the same position, still looking north. The photo shows the field in its entirety and the Cedarburg farmstead over here. This again panning toward the east. This shows the general location of the proposed substation, the Cedarburg farmstead, along with the entrance to the Konza Prairie, which is way up here, and of course McDowell Creek Road. Same position here. A few residences back here. I believe there's a house in this area here. What we're looking at here. And I took liberty to stand in the cemetery, take a look at the shot, take a shot looking north at the site to kind of give perspective as what it would look like if you're standing at that location in the cemetery, looking that direction. Special use comes with conditions, and much like a conditional use, they are governed by these conditions to try to make the proposed special use compatible with the surrounding and underlying zoning. And this is our list for electrical substations. The entrance and access road to the substation shall consist of and be maintained with all weather surfacing, such as gravel. No portion of the site shall be used for storage of equipment, vehicles, materials, or supplies, except for during construction. All outdoor light fixtures shall be shielded with cutoff fixtures and directed downward to prevent off-site glare. All areas outside of the fenced wall area shall be graded and seeded to grass, or in this particular case, to an extent, and then it will be farmed around it. A reclamation plan shall be submitted to and approved by the, I got the wrong planning board here, I gotta get that switched, at the Raleigh County Planning Board. Things for the board to consider. The views and sight lines to or from an important cultural or historical site, such as the Ashland Cemetery, could be adversely affected by the physical presence of a new substation, which could have long-term impacts. The overall aesthetic impact of a new substation is highly dependent on the size and location of the facility. Smaller distribution substations may or may not be able to be camouflaged easily with berms, fencing, or landscaping, and can appear quite industrial in nature. In rural settings, local property owners may object to the facility's strong visual impact with the physical appearance of the transformers, switches, and high fences of new substations, which may detract from the rural character. Because of the height of the some substation equipment and the clearing necessary around the transmission facilities, it can be difficult to reduce the visual impact of transmission substations. It's the nature of the beast. Although electrical substations have an undeniable industrial look to them, the reality is that they are needed and cannot be expected to locate only in industrial districts or areas designated for industrial uses. There has to be a balance between rural character and the aesthetics of the essential services that do not necessarily conform to what is considered rural or naturally occurring. With that said, it's encouraged to not only locate such facilities in a safe and convenient location, but to consider adjustments to the site selection that could help minimize real or perceived impacts on view sheds and surrounding cultural amenities. Lastly, the proposed switching station is necessary as part of an essential facility, which is electricity, tied into the overall critical infrastructure and will benefit the community as a whole, not just a certain group or a particular group. Section 1.8 exemptions of the land development regulations exempts public service wires and poles, but not the substation itself necessarily. We have no control over the poles themselves. And that's when you see poles in the right of way and such. They're exempt, we have no control of those. Staff recommends that the planning board forward a recommendation of approval of the request to the Board of County Commissioners based on the following findings. Proposed substation site was selected based on the location of the existing 115 volt transmission line that will be connected to the substation to accommodate future loads. The new substation will contain equipment that function as switches and breakers that will allow personnel to perform maintenance on the transmission lines and substation equipment without subjecting customers to unnecessary outages. This is a necessary thing. The proposed substation will not pollute the air, land, or water, or produce dust, fumes, odors, smoke, or vibration, or a considerable increase of the traffic at that location. It has been determined that the request meets the requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations and the Riley County Sanitary Code. Staff recommends that the planning board forward a recommendation of approval, the request to the Board of Commissioners of Riley County, conditioned upon the following. And those are the conditions that I read off to you earlier, with the exception of the submission of the reclamation plan. I believe that you received that reclamation plan, but yet that taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. But that's all I have. That's what is being presented. The applicant has a presentation. I'd like to maybe go into a little bit more detail than I have. That's all I have. If you have any questions for me?
Joe, you have anything for Bob?
Not at the moment, no, read it.
Not at the moment.
Diana? All right, at this time, your representative from Evergy, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Keck with Evergy. Address is 818 South Kansas Avenue, Topeka, Kansas. And Bob did a great job of explaining why we need this or what we're planning on doing. I kind of want to go into, because I know we're gonna have a lot of comments, so I want to keep it short for you guys. When this came up, we have a planning group that kind of looks at load growth in the area, reliability. And they said that we needed a site. We needed a substation to increase the reliability, to possibly help with some load growth and, in the future. We need the site. When we started looking at it, we noticed the Konza Prairie to the south. I mean, we could not notice it. the big criteria for this project was to stay north of the Konza Prairie because we currently have a line going through it. Had we gone east or west or south, we would have had to take a line off the existing transmission line, probably through the Konza Prairie. We need to stay in this area due to the proximity to our other substations or other lines. So we went north on purpose to help avoid the impact to the Konza Prairie. We realized the cemetery is right there. We looked at several landowners. We talked to numerous landowners. A big reasoning behind selecting a site is having a willing landowner. That's aside from all the environmental factors, the topography, we like to have a flat site if possible. We like to have, we have to have something out of the floodplain. There's a lot of floodplain to the north. The farther north you go, the more floodplain you have. So we're kind of limited on that as well. You know, this is already an ag field, so we wouldn't be taking up native prairie. We look at the historic, we had a historic survey done on this property. We did due diligence for wildlife and parks and all of that. And then we talked to several landowners. We had 6 or 7 options, I think maybe 8 or 9. Can't remember. I was in on the early stages. There was a lot of options. And we started talking to the landowners and we got some hard no's and we got some maybes. And this landowner is the one that was willing to sell to us or to give us an option to try to get the substation site here. And it met the other criteria, the floodplains, the historic side. And it was a willing landowner. So that's why we selected this site and that's why we're here today. I will say that this is a switching station. It's not a huge substation. It's 300 by 300 feet. I know that might sound big to some of you guys. It's 2.5 acres. It doesn't have transformers. It doesn't have any of the equipment that will come. It's the smaller gear, like the picture, but the smaller. It's significantly smaller than that picture that was shown. No transformer, so you won't have the big tall equipment. You'll have poles that go into it, but you know, like Bob said, that's our transmission poles. We'll go into the substation and yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I don't know how to bring the presentation up, so I'm not gonna go through it unless we need to. And we did, I will reiterate, when this came up, we met with the county and then, you know, the application was submitted. We got notice that there was obviously maybe some people that were concerned. So we met with the Ashland Township representatives in March to try to see what some options were and some, you know, where you work together. I can't even think of the name right now. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Thank you, collaboration or something. And we kind of asked if you know of a better site that, you know, that would have a willing landowner, let us know and we'll for sure kind of go down that path. And I don't know if they, I mean, I don't know. We didn't get any additional sites to look at. So we're back here with this one. This is where we're kind of going with. I'm going to not know how to use this. This is kind of what Bob went through. This is our site. That green line's where our existing transmission line runs through right now. The red line's the property boundary of the option that we picked, 11 to 12 acres. We need a little extra for construction to get around the site. Once we're done, it'll be the 300 by 300. And the rest of it can be likely farmed back with the property owner. It will not be all substation. It'll be that small area right there. And it's an easy tie in to that existing transmission line. So you won't have extra lines going into that sub from this existing line right here. And this is all the criteria we look at. Like I said, we had several sites, all of them more north due to the Konza Prairie. We didn't want to have an impact on that. This is just a small image of the floodplain issue that we're dealing with in this area. We won't put a substation in the floodplain. Water and electricity don't mix, so we stay out of it. Yeah, this is just more. That's an older site plan. And then this is just a picture of the current site where we're at now. And I will kind of close with that and ask you guys have any questions. I'm sure we'll be back up here for questions later. So if you have any questions now, go ahead and take them.
Diane, do you have any questions
A
for?
couple questions for, have you considered going north across the river?
We have. And I don't know, Aaron, if you can help expand on that. I know I think the river might be too far away from where we're needing to tie in, or it might be too close to the other substations. I think when you. And I'm not the electric.
So your substations have to be so far apart?
To make them work together, yeah, you have them farther apart. So they tie into different lines, and you can switch one line off while you're working on another line, and it increases the reliability. So you don't have to have as many people out.
Because I did some looking around and stuff, and like over in Hunter's Island, and then up on a hill that it's the north end of Sunrise Cemetery. And the county or the city owns that land up there, and there happens to be another substation thing up there. And I thought, this is perfect, easy to Ogden and and stuff, but I didn't know if you'd ever considered going north that way.
And I'm not gonna explain it right, but we try to stay within a certain area of other substations as well for the switching ability.
Mhm.
Sure, go ahead. Aaron can explain it really like.
Aaron Spur, Evergy, excuse me. What the area you're referring to is around the Stag Hill area, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's actually, like you said, another substation is the main feed into Ogden. So that'd be the north feed, and it's the only feed into the Ogden area. That same area also feeds the Bluestem Electric metering point and portions of the Ashland Township. So by us configuring the substation, routing that traffic from the other end, it'll complete a loop and provide backup, switching potential and backup reliability in a different direction. We were to put this same facility near the Stag Hill location, they'd be following that same path into Ogden. So if there was ever a weather event or something of that nature that took out lines in that area, we still have no backup feed. So by spreading those out and putting in a different geographical location towards the south end, it provides a loop potential for better reliability.
Okay, so like if you went down off that hill and stuff and went that same general area, that would still do the same thing, or it wouldn't provide the other option that you need?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, that's something that was not actually part of, the scope of us finding a location for this site. But typically we try to space those out. Like I said, I'm not for sure exactly the location you're referring to and if that would work for us, but it wasn't a part of the scope of what we are looking for locations for this.
So did you look at, where does that line that goes north and south there? Or no, I'm sorry, east, what goes east and west? It's
So the line you actually see in these photos.
it's the power lines that are there, the big power lines. that
Yeah,
are there.
the transmission, the 115 line that you see in these photos actually does run straight north into the Stag Hill substation. So they're on that exact same line,
Okay,
and then it runs south to McDowell Creek, which is the name of the subdivision. Anyway, it runs quite a ways to the south, so that's the nearest 115 transmission line that we have in the area in and around Ogden. So, and that's the main driver of this project, is support, like we mentioned earlier, support load growth and just better reliability for the Ogden area and even parts of the Ashland Township. There's circuits. There's 3 different substations around Ogden, basically one on the north end, one on the south end, one in the middle. The middle substation does feed, comes across the river and feeds portions of the Ashland Township. It also feeds, like I said, the Bluestem metering point. So we do sell our facilities to Bluestem, and they feed, I think, the southern portion of the Ashland Township. But there's definitely some load growth in the area, and then we're just near capacity. The substations that are in and around Ogden are relatively small. Not a lot of potential there for upgrading, and they're also a 34 kV system instead of the 115. Just not a lot of additional capacity there with being at a lower voltage. So bringing that 115 source, like we mentioned, around in the south and having a larger loop just will provide, for one, a lot more capacity around the area. I think there's some load growth around the Manhattan Regional Airport area and those types of things, but it completes that loop, and then, like I said, just provides better reliability and switching potential in the future.
so have you looked at other places there on Ashland Bottoms? Around Ashland?
Is that along McDowell Creek? Road?
McDowell Creek
Yes.
Road?
Yeah.
There were
that
6 or
are-
8 spots along there.
Well, but that are further away from the highway.
If you go farther north there.
I'm sorry,
What, so what highway? This,
from McDowell Road.
You're talking south. We're down here, or
Well,
north?
the directions out there.
Okay.
I always get turned around.
the McDowell Creek, the farther north you get, the more that your floodplain, and we're limited by floodplains.
Okay,
Could
but
you,
as you go. Okay,
Here,
Like,
If you have internet,
Does
I can
that-
make
does
a
that help?
floodplain map.
Does that help that map there? That's about the only big area we have.
Well, so
Okay.
there's a small floodplain map, right here.
yeah, that one
So
there.
the farther north you go, you just get inundated with floodplains, and finding a spot in there, plus the willing landowner, plus all the other criteria. We live out there, where do we go there?
okay, you're going, this is your line here.
Hold on, right there's the line, the green is the line, yep,
This is the transmission line.
yes,
Okay,
and the condo area is right south,
right.
yeah, right where your hand is
Okay.
basically.
So can you go this way?
We looked that way, we did not find a willing landowner that. Yeah, we looked that way, we were told no,
Plus
Okay.
so they were options.
And is there a landowner that be willing to have a pole on their place, but have the station on the other side of the river? Has that been an option that you've looked at?
You mean going back north of the river? Back, that's,
That way, yes.
oh, you mean on the,
Towards Manhattan and Ogden.
oh, and that brings us back to the reliability and having all the substations in it, like Aaron was explaining. The substations and completing the loop, it needs to be farther away. In case one of them goes down and,
Okay.
Can I raise a question about the floodplain?
No, you're not, and, it's not your turn yet.
Could you
Joe,
go back to the map that had the floodplain on it?
This one or the flood?
That, no.
yes,
Okay, if you were to go straight north from where it's at, it looks like you're about. What, maybe 300 feet away from, I assume that light gray is the floodplain.
yes,
If you were to go straight
On
up
that
on the
same-
map, north on the map, it looks like you stay fairly far away from the floodplain.
on this parcel right here.
Yeah.
So this was what the landowner optioned to us.
Mhm.
So that's where we're at. So.
But would it be possible if that landowner was willing to take that substation north?
Likely, yes, but I
Okay.
can't say that without.
Right,
without-
I understand that.
Yes, yes,
I was just looking at that map saying, okay,
Right.
you're not in the floodplain.
No, I
That's, okay, thank you very much.
understand, yes.
Mhm.
Rita, do you have anything?
Yeah, I had a question. I've seen lots of substations. Is there a building of some sort on it? There's nothing depicted on the drawings.
Where's the, oh.
Most of them have, some of them have.
There should-
Yeah, so,
It'll be a building, if it's anything, it's gonna be control enclosure for the equipment, they're small,
What,
we actually refer to them as dog houses and they're literally almost that's
Yeah.
size. So this doesn't have any sort of a larger structure for like distribution circuits, with it being just a switching station. There's no transformers, nothing to actually get power to distribution levels. So yeah, there'll be no.
what's
like-
the ballpark of it?
well, I think the
Doghouse?
picture that Bob actually had, that showed the bigger one, had one of those.
Yeah, I
houses
was
in it.
curious how big yours was gonna be.
6 by 6, they're not very.
6 by 6, okay. Do you use any decorative wall material for those buildings?
For the buildings or the substation.
Well, the substation, the building is the only, like, you obviously can't do that necessarily on the poles. I'm saying on the building, any buildings itself. That would
Right.
blend with the area around it. I've seen it places in more urban areas where they make cell towers look like trees and
Oh.
things of that nature. Can you make the walls not look like a metal building?
We purchase them from a vendor that kind of becomes standardized, so we don't typically do that, but I mean, if that's something that's a request, we can.
We
see
can
what
look
that-
into
Yeah,
it.
we can.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we've had-
more
yeah.
traditionally, sorry, we do something around it, perimeter fence or wall, do something that, because if a wall was, a precast stone or something of that nature, you wouldn't even see those types of structures behind it. So that's usually what we get requested to do and have a plan in place for those types of things.
And it's like a chain link fence with barbed wire on the top of it. Is there any landscaping around besides the farmland around
The
it?
current proposed submittal was for chain link with the barbed wire on the top with no landscaping. That is always up to, if that's a condition. We're more than willing to work with, within some scope of a condition like that, yes.
I think. Those are. Any question?
All right, and I guess I got one question, and I just got this evening by looking at it. This picture here with the planned lines coming in from the west into the switch station from Ogden. We just got this.
It's in that stack of things I got.
Where did that, is that on the staff?
Oh, it's from you guys. So I was just kind of curious.
We haven't done,
That may be from me.
we
I
have,
Oh, okay.
Oh, I saw that. That was in the stack.
Okay, so this isn't, okay.
It was with this.
we have
stuff.
not done a routing study, we don't know.
Okay, so that, okay, all right, that's,
Is that from the township?
Yeah.
I did see some pictures in there.
so I guess one other question I have, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
In the future, is this just a one-time, one size, no addition switch station?
What we're building out will be, it's not built out larger than what we need currently. It's built out for what we need currently. If we were to expand, which doesn't seem likely from conversations, but you don't know what's gonna happen in 20, 30 years.
Right.
We would have to come back to
Yeah.
the same process. So what currently is planned is currently the only amount that we need.
Okay. All right. Anything else for Evergy? Before we move on?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank
We'll probably be, you'll probably have to have some questions answered later.
Yes.
Thank you. So at this time, and as we said in the beginning, please come to the podium, state your name and your address before you start talking, and and direct your comments to the board, not to anybody else in the audience. So at this time, I'm going to ask for any other proponents for this. And if not, I don't see any. I'm going to ask for opponents within 1,000 feet.
Evening, everybody. I breathed a lot of smoke today, so my voice isn't gonna be too good, I'm afraid. It turned out to be the day to burn my back pasture and Parker property west of my property, so. Didn't get a chance to prepare quite as much as I wanted to, but those pictures you're looking at are from me as the township trustee. My name is Lauren Clement. I'm the Ashland Township trustee. I live at 3881 South 20th Street, which is not within the notification zone, but somebody has to speak to the dead in the Ashland Cemetery. And that's going to be me as the township trustee. So my goal right now is to let you know who I am and introduce a couple arguments and then turn it over to my friends and neighbors who are going to speak to other arguments about why we should oppose this particular proposal. I'm also a member of the Rural Economic Development Advisory Board for the Raleigh County Commissioners. I'm a licensed attorney, I'm a landscape architect, taught at K-State for 40 years in the landscape architecture program. And I've lived in Manhattan since 1980 and in Ashland Bottom since 1991. As most of you know, I served on the Raleigh County Planning Board for 27 years. And when we were dealing with the wind turbines in the Flint Hills, I was one of the key members of that group, studying, analyzing, and looking at the visual impacts of large industrial kinds of infrastructure on open space, particularly the negative impacts in scenic areas of the hills. So I'm just going to introduce a few ideas and put it over to my neighbors and colleagues to stay within that 5-minute rule. I'm going to ask you to think very seriously about the Vision 2025 comprehensive plan. Number one first and foremost goal of that plan that we worked on for a long time, many years. Preservation of agricultural lands and the rural character is number one. It's also the first criteria for the land development regulations. Criteria that should be evaluated when considering this kind of request. In the staff report, there's 1, 2, 3 items there in the land development regulations that, in my view, this proposal fails on all 3 counts of the compatibility with the land use plan, the vision plan, with preservation of the general welfare of our citizens as well as health and safety, and also economic values not being diminished in the area because of this kind of proposal. That's 1, 2, 3 in the staff report that's not quite addressed as fully as I think it should have been during this presentation. So a couple other thoughts here. Why is it that in the US, we name our suburban streets and our land development projects for the things that we destroy in the process of developing them? With a wry smile at that irony, we often say, well, that's the price of progress, which I think is what you heard tonight from the staff report. And then we don't think about it a whole lot, and we don't have a lot of regret until the thing actually gets built. The wind turbines, I was talking to a lot of different counties further south here, as well as Raleigh County, about what the impact is going to be of very large scale wind turbines. If you look at those pictures that I gave you, there's 1, 2, 3, and one of the first one is the routing line for future lines. It's yellow, it's a yellow line. The red lines are the existing lines. That was sent to me by a friend of mine in Kansas City, who's an architect who works for the federal government. And he said, hey, look, this is out here. This is online. That line is going to go west from this location, pretty much along 33rd Street, which is why a lot of neighbors here are from South 33rd Street saying, what the heck is going on here with this new high voltage line going right over my house? The next picture in there is the current monopoles being used by Evergy for carrying these high power lines. Those images, that page and the next one happen to be right next to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Manhattan on Zedale Road. I'm a member there. I happened to see that. I thought, wow, look at the difference of the existing telephone poles. About 40 feet. You don't really see it because the trees are masking it. And then you look at that new monopole. That's about 100 feet tall. It's about 8 feet in diameter at the base. It's Corten steel. It stands out really much, quite obviously, like a silver thumb in the environment. That is going to march right across Ashland Bottoms if this substation gets approved. My neighbors, the Goodyears, the Knorks, others who have built homes, spent a lot of money to build a retirement home. They're going to be looking at those power lines in the foreground, not the background. Now, I've got a lot of thoughts here about the law.
You got Doug, your 5 minutes is up.
All right, I'm just going to mention what you've got in your hands. This study by Thomas Markle Power.
I gave you 2 minutes.
The economic impacts of visual qualities not being considered are serious for regional economic development and local economic development. That's why I gave you this packet to think about it. Please read through it. Don't take it lightly. It's real science, looking at the impacts of large-scale infrastructure projects, as well as mining and forestry in the western US. It makes a difference. I'm out there because I want to retire in a beautiful place. I'm spending my money there. Other people are moving there just to move and enjoy the recreational aspects and the scenic aspects of that environment. It's one of our best areas in Manhattan. This idea of Manhattan being in a beautiful environment. Others are going to speak to these issues in more depth.
We're going to have to cut it off, Lawrence, because.
All right, you got this list of speakers.
Well,
The people within 1,000 feet are going to speak. I think Raleigh Hayers might come up. Then
okay, that's fine. They'll just have to come up. Your time's done. We gotta stick to the rules. So,
I understand.
okay.
Thank you for listening.
Yep. I'm Raleigh Ayers, address 2900 West 32nd Avenue. Lived in the area for 50 some years and sometimes still feel like a newcomer. Years ago, we had a little problem, not a problem. Something in the neighborhood and got together and everybody solved it. As I look at this project and look at the impact of what constitutes to become a district, I don't see that it meets it. In summary, it would appear that they're putting a cancerous physical building out there, and visually it's a cancer, and will only spread when they have to do the distribution. It just spreads from here to there. Again, not my 5 minutes, it's all over, but visually it's just a mess out there if you allow that to continue. Thanks very much.
Hi, my name is Ron Plataski, and I live at 4490 McDowell Creek Road. There are several overarching reasons why the Evergy proposal to establish a substation on McDowell Creek Road and the associated high voltage transmission line that will follow is inappropriate for the Ashland community and the values shared by a vast majority of residents who cherish this pastoral community. One of the last near Manhattan that remains largely intact is agricultural, with traditional farmsteads, a community building, church, and cemetery. The Scenic River Road, designated for McDowell Creek Road from Interstate 70, is a reflection of that fact. This pastoral landscape has not been industrialized, with one exception 3 decades ago, as Raleigh mentioned. There was a misguided proposal for a landfill and transfer station in one of the prairie valleys in that area. The people rose to the occasion, and that did not occur. Our family was blessed with the opportunity to purchase a farm from our friends Elston and Ethel Nordstrom 34 years ago. And we built a home there 5 years ago with a sense of obligation to others in the natural environment. We built in an old limestone quarry and left almost all the cedars and other trees surrounding it intact to dramatically reduce any visual impact on neighbors or appreciation of this setting by thousands of visitors to Konza Prairie each year. Beyond that consideration, my wife and I donated a conservation easement of 40-acre parcel of native grassland to the Kansas Land Trust in 1995 and added a conservation easement for an additional 40 acres through the USDA Grassland Reserve Program. Both easements were first of their kind in the Flint Hills and in Kansas, respectively. Hikers and youth groups that look westward from the Konza Trail have a view of this native prairie land. Tragically, this same view extends to include the site of Evergy's proposed substation. The view of the substation and future additional infrastructure from the trail will be most immediately intrusive for the greatest number of people at sunset, many who come there for that purpose. However, nothing will compare to the jarring intrusiveness of the facilities if at some future date lighting is added, transforming the views from Konza, that of neighbors, and the cemetery just across the road. We can see the small memorial lights in the cemetery from our home at night, but they are a reflection of various families' love, not industrialization of this special setting where reverence should be the priority. Our family enjoys the sight and sounds of joy that reflect the enjoyment that families and youth express as they use the trail. There are often 50 to 100 vehicles parked at the entrance to the trail. All aspects of Ponza are collectively of great economic and other value to the greater Manhattan community. Where else can folks experience the natural and agrarian heritage of Kansas in this way? In addition to the conservation easements and other stewardship considerations I have outlined, we transform the small fields along Kings Creek and the Konza Prairie Lane into prairie restorations with native grasses and wildflowers. For the thousands of visitors, youth, and other educational groups, scientists from throughout the country and the world, the entrance to and exit from Konza will be transformed from a view combining a combination of natural and pastoral features to that of an industrial structure seemingly out of place for now, and increasingly in the future like expansion, only known but not shared with you or the community by effigy officials. Only 4% of our continent's tallgrass prairie remain in any form, preserving and applying the greatest degree of stewardship feasible is of paramount importance. Ponza is one of the few intact prairie landscapes where this can be assured. I am privately proud to propose purchase of the property to TNC 50 years ago. It later happened. Several governors have held that the heart of the Flint Hills should be protected against development of expansive industrial scale wind power. In the spirit of that recognition, public utilities should give deference to the Flint Hills that surround the Ashland community. We're designing transmission line corridors and placement of substations. There are alternative routes and alternative places. As an adjacent landowner and homeowner in the Ashland community, I request that the Riley County Planning Board deny the request by Evergy for a special use permit to establish a substation at this location, delineated along the Delphi Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jared Parsons, 3721 South 33rd Street, Manhattan. I've been very blessed to be part of this community since 1987. I raised a family of 3 that are still at home and my wife, so got 5 in the house there. I want to start out with the rights of the private landowner. I think that's very important. I'm not trying to take that away, but we need to be respectful and honor that the right of the landowner. However, you got to realize that everybody's actions affect others. So that being said, I'm here to speak on just a couple small topics. The first one being the cemetery. I have friends that are there, and they can't speak anymore, and I plan to be there. So I'm speaking for them and myself, and I don't think I'd like to see that across the way. I'd like to look out and rest peacefully. If all can work out to look across the fields. Also, I'm very concerned about the high wire, the high line power poles that are being not necessarily proposed exactly right now, but they got to go west to go to Ogden. That's the line on the map shows it going over my head, my house. Obviously, that's a big concern for my property value, as well as everybody else's that are on those on that line, but also our health concerns, or mine and my family's health concerns is what I'll speak for. And And hey, I'll just end it with a comment my wife told me, you know, if I got a chance to say, which I think is pretty honest, is preserving the scenic byway to Manhattan adds value to Manhattan as well as the residents out here. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Kotaski. I live at 813 Juniper Drive, and as previously mentioned, my family's land is on McDowell Creek Road. I'm here to urge you to oppose construction of the electrical switching station in Ashland Bottoms at the entrance to Conga Prairie, one of our community's most treasured natural resources, a hub for outdoor recreation and a symbol of the environmental, cultural, and economic value of the foothills and the tallgrass prairie. The Konza Prairie and the scenic views from its hiking trail are a source of civic pride and identity. Just think of all the businesses and organizations in our community with names like Konza and Tallgrass, and the many others who take pride in our unique landscape and the products, experiences, and quality of life it provides. When we see images of Manhattan or Kansas, we often see photos of the Konza Prairie, the view from the top of the hill that looks across the valley. A sign on I-70 even describes the road through the valley as the scenic river road to Manhattan. If this proposed station is built, it will become a visible part of these images at a detriment to the scenic value of our community. I'm speaking to you today from multiple points of view. First, as someone whose family's land, which we work hard to conserve and care for, will be directly impacted by the proposed development. As you heard from my father, Ron, our family owns over 150 acres directly across from and within 1,000 feet of the proposed site. One of our favorite spots to watch the sun go down is up on the hill looking out over the pastoral landscape, which if built would include this electrical switching station. Another cherished place to play with my children, where I played as well, is the pristine creek that runs through our land. It's hard to imagine looking up at the switching station as we catch crawdads and listen to kingfishers. My wife and I have also considered restoring an old barn on the property and offering nature-based tourism opportunities, but this proposed switching station would make this plan unfeasible by diminishing the surrounding scenic rural character. Although I'm troubled by the potential impact to the value of our land, I want to stress that I'm most concerned about the surrounding rural community in which our land and family are embedded. This community has come together to stand in opposition to this development, and there are many folks who could not speak here tonight who are deeply worried about their land and home values, the impact on the nearby cemetery, and the scar this construction would leave on the rural character of the valley. As Manhattan continues to grow, we should actively work to preserve the heritage and scenic value of rural areas and surrounding communities. We should also aim to grow without disregarding and diminishing the lives of the people that are already there. Second, I'm speaking to you as an avid hiker and a member of the Friends of the Konza Prairie, as well as someone who believes that we need more opportunities for both visitors and local people to get outdoors and experience the prairie. And we also need to protect the places we have, and this starts with opposing the switching station. Promoting access to the outdoors is not only good for the health of individuals in our community, but it contributes to tourism and our local economy. There are many individuals and families in our community and region who move here from elsewhere, and with limited access to public land, the hiking trail at Konza is crucial for providing access to the prairie. Protecting the viewshed from this trail is one way we can continue to make Manhattan a place where people are proud to raise their families, and where both locals and visitors can bike on rural roads and enjoy the beauty of the Flint Hills. Our unique scenery is one thing that makes Manhattan special, and we should protect it. Third, as a cultural anthropologist, I've seen firsthand how communities around the world, including farming and ranching regions like Kansas, can benefit from nature-based and agriculture-based tourism, as well as efforts to value and protect rural character and scenery. These efforts are not only good for landowners, but they can be good for surrounding towns and economies too. Because this proposed switching station would dramatically impact the scenic value and character of Ashland Bottoms, it diminishes the potential for this community and the broader public to benefit from similar forms of nature-based tourism and land use. All too often around the world, development takes place without consideration for local people, and this shouldn't be another example.
My final point is that while this statement might seem like another not in my backyard argument, the goal is to highlight the fact that the Konza Prairie is the backyard of all of us. We can use it, we all can use it, and we should all care about it, its scenic value and the rural character of Ashland Bottoms. This proposal is not just bad for my family, it's bad for all of us in Manhattan and Bradley County. I ask you to deny the special use permit. Thanks for your time and consideration.
So that's the 1,000 feet of notification zone.
You only talk at the podium, I'm sorry. So.
My name is Paul Barkey. I live at 4236 Grantham Drive in St. George. I'm addressing the spiritual aspects of Ashland Bottoms and McDowell Creek Road, which is a Kansas scenic byway. Prominent along the scenic byway is the Ashland Bottoms Cemetery. Ashland community was founded in 1855. One of the founding residents of Ashland was William Stone. His marriage to Matilda was the first that was celebrated in that new town. They farmed on McDowell Creek, and in 1862, their infant daughter, Mary Elizabeth, died. She was buried on their property, and his wife Matilda was buried next to her daughter in 1876. William Stone transferred the 2 acres on which his wife and daughter were buried to the Ashland Township to be used as a cemetery. William Stone himself died in 1923 and at the age of 92 was buried in lot 104 of Ashland Cemetery. The property surrounding the cemetery was purchased by the Ellis family from Mr. Flourish in 1942, donated to the township to expand and define the boundaries of the cemetery. Jim and Lois Curry purchased additional land from the Ellises and added additional land to the west for future needs. The proposed location of the Evergy switching station adjacent to the Ashland Bottom Cemetery is particularly troubling to me and people I love. For the last 25 years, I've had the wonderful and singular blessing of serving as pastor of Ashland Community Church. Each time we drive McDowell Creek Road, it is a spiritual experience due to the beauty of the valley. Each trip by the cemetery is deeply spiritual, as we are filled with wonderful memories of those who, though no longer with us, are in our thoughts in a special way. There are people here this evening who have children, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and neighbors in Ashland Cemetery as their final resting place. They feel an unspoken covenant with those buried there to maintain the cemetery as a place of respect and reverence. Cemeteries have a critical place in our culture and in particular our community. The beautiful Ashland Cemetery is a place of goodbyes, remembrances, and the promise of Easter, the resurrection, and eternal life. The cemetery is maintained by volunteer assistants from the Ashland Bottoms 4-H Club, their leaders, parents, and other family members. They also decorate the cemetery and place flags on the graves of all veterans who have served our country. Ashland holds an annual Memorial Day service in the cemetery, followed by a reception at Ashland Community Church. Ashland Township Cemetery is made up of now 272 lots, which are 8 feet by 15 feet. This includes 45 men and women who serve their community and country in all branches of service. Among them are those who served in the Civil War, Indian Wars, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The natural beauty of the Ashland Cemetery is deeply moving. The quiet of Ashland Bottoms, the Konza, trees, creeks, birds, wildlife are all part of why people choose to be buried there. There have also been occasions when individuals not from Ashland Bottoms, following the burial of a family or friend at the cemetery, have asked how they could arrange to be buried there. They are touched by the natural beauty and sense of peace. People are buried there from a variety of communities, churches, denominations, and religions. Some have chosen Ashland Cemetery as their final resting place, even though they moved away from the area years ago. I'd like to leave you with a moot question. What if the switching station was in place and we were looking for a place to establish a new cemetery in the area. Would we choose to establish a cemetery at its present location if the switching station was already there? I think not. And I don't think that as members of the planning board that you would choose to locate the cemetery there either. We all know that it doesn't fit. And I'll be glad to respond to any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Levitt, and I'm here with my husband, Jan. We live at 5011 Gal Creek Road, and ours was on one of the maps shown, the single family home just to the lower left-hand corner of the map, just outside of the 1,000-foot range. We moved to that address about 30 years ago. And I think that now somehow, excuse me, it's considered the 11th place, not the 12th place. Pearl was the person that lived there for many years prior to our moving in there. And I believe that just goes to show you how very close-knit that community is. People are invested in long-term relationships, the quality of living and the tending of lands that we have the fortunate responsibility to care for is all very important to all of us in that valley. Our home has admittedly offered us a lot of challenges over the years. We've invested money and a lot of sweat equity into maintaining and improving the structure of that house, trying to keep it in the nature of the Flint Hills. Additionally, my husband Jan's shop was put on that, he builds custom furniture, and we put a shop on that land about 15 years ago. In putting that in place there, we on purpose moved it to the back portion of the land so that it would not be visible from the road. Wouldn't offer any detraction to what you see driving down that scenic drive. And as was stated before, it's noted on the highway that this is the scenic river road to Manhattan. And then again, as we've worked on this house and we've lived there all of these years, we've done everything we could to make it part of that visual impact coming into Manhattan. We purchased and invested in this area because of the beauty, the community, and the close connections to one of the last vestiges of the Tallgrass Prairie. Jan was one of the first docents that they had out there as they were getting that program started. And in researching the impact of this power station and the power lines that we saw just previously, I found that there was little impact on land value on many of the open spaces or in industrial areas. And I appreciated the questions that you asked on maybe other locations placing this. However, the financial impact of something like this on property value where there are homes can be substantial. And in the readings that I did, we're looking at anywhere from 15 to 50% reduction in land value. There are a wide range of things you can find online that will attest to this. And all of them fall kind of in a general category, depending on exactly where they're placed. As I mentioned, our property is just outside of the 1,000-foot area. But it certainly is in direct sight line of that power station. We will be seeing flashing lights if they're available there, any noise pollution that comes off of that, any health implications, whether they're real or perceived, will have an impact on that land value. And again, we are in direct sight line, and that's something that we're going to be looking at out the kitchen window every day. Additionally, with the expected power lines and the line that those power lines are taking in the north and west portion, we've got neighbors throughout the valley that are going to lose land value as well. And I believe that the overall devaluation of those properties can't be taken lightly from a county perspective. There are several reasons tonight noted outlining why we should not allow the placement of that station and subsequent power lines in this really important agricultural area, which is a gateway to an environmentally endangered portion of our area, the Kanza. The impact on property values is another and very real and painful and potentially harmful hit to the financial well-being of our community and to the surrounding area, including the entire county. At the risk of being repetitive from what you've been given already, The Riley County Vision 2025 Comprehensive Plan states, and this is the #1 goal. The agricultural landscape is an essential part of our character and environmental quality that makes Riley County such an extraordinary place to live and visit. The landscape is also an integral part of our regional economy that sustains livelihoods, contributes to the tax base of the county, and sustains a natural renewable resources necessary for growth and stability in the future. Distinct from, but strongly connected to agricultural land is the concept of our rural character. Rural character itself has many environmental, social, and economic benefits. So I want to thank you for your willingness to listen to our concerns. And hopefully this clarifies some of the reasons why the positioning of this power station and where they're planning to put it is not a good idea. It should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emma Leuthold. I live at 2241 West 40th Avenue, Manhattan, Kansas. Hello, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Emma Leuthold. I am the wife of Michael Leuthold, which I think I lost back here. I'm also the mother of our 2 daughters, Madeline, who's 4, and Hazel, who is 1. I'm also the daughter-in-law of Mark Leuthold, who's back here. We are all residents of the township of Ashland Bottoms. We know Evergy has requested to put a switching station off McDowell Creek Road on a piece of property of one of our neighbors own. We hold no hard feelings to our neighbors for considering doing this and being a willing seller. But here are some issues with Evergy requesting to put this in a place we call home. My husband is a 4th generation farmer and rancher in Ashland Bottoms and McDowell Creek community. He was born and raised in Ashland Bottoms, as well as many others. When I married my husband, there was no question of where we would raise our future family. I knew the answer that the moment we started dating, that our home would be Ashland Bottoms. His great-grandparents, Marge and Don Hartner, moved to Ashland Bottoms when they had to leave their farm in Riley, Kansas, because of the fort moving in. They decided to move and replant their roots in Ashland Bottoms, and little did they know, 3 generations after them made Ashland Bottoms and McDowell Creek their home to raise their families. If Evergy is allowed to put this switching station on McDowell Creek, the power poles they need to run to go to Ogden will run right through the place Marge and Dawn called home for so many years, where their granddaughter currently resides with her family. My husband's family chose this place to plant their roots and grow because of it being a quiet, rural farm community that took care of each other, not because they wished to have extremely large power poles to run through their farm and all of the community that we love. I believe in landowners' rights, and I do believe that the landowners have a right to do what they want with their own land. But they do not have the right to do what they want with other people's land. If this switching station is approved by you all tonight, you are approving not just the landowner's right to sell their land, but you're also approving Evergy to put these monstrosity of power poles through highly desirable crop ground and native grass pasture. The land is currently zoned for agricultural use, and any change from that must be reasonable. And we think it's unreasonable to convert high value crop ground to electrical infrastructure. To all of you, that might not mean much to you, but to us, it means everything. From the map that Lauren has provided to you all, they will be going right through what I can tell is about 6 different persons' properties. And every single one of those properties have something related to agriculture on it. Whether that be no-till or tillable crop ground, hay ground, or pasture that cattle and horses graze upon. One of the properties that Evergy would like to put their power poles through is the property of K-State's Agronomy Department. That has been committed to many years to their research on crop studies. Another one of the properties being the land my husband's great-grandparents purchased after they had to relocate their farm and start fresh. This isn't just ground that nobody cares about. This is our livelihood. that Evergy seems to have no regard for. My husband and I are young farmers and ranchers, and to see a large company like them does not have any compassion towards a dying career of being farmers and ranchers, it is extremely disheartening. Our small farm community won't be our small farm community that we have put our literal blood, sweat, and tears into if you approve this switching station. It could open the door to every Tom, Dick, and Harry to try and purchase property from our community for whatever idea they have dreamed up and feel it would be possible because of having this switching station to power them. And because of that, I beg you all to please deny this electrical switching station that won't only affect the scenic views of McDowell Creek that McDowell Creek is known for, but also because of our home known as Ashland Bottoms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick O'Neill, 3230 McDowell Creek Road. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I am a local Ashland resident as well as project manager at the Konza Prairie Biological Station and a member of the Ashland Township Board. Several perspectives enunciating the value of Konza have been made already, to which I want to add just a few points before addressing the issue as a Township Board member. Konza is a private-public partnership between the Nature Conservancy, a private conservation organization, and the Division of Biology at Kansas State University. Since purchasing the ranch in the 1970s, the Nature Conservancy has held as a core value the standard of continuing to contribute to the local community. One avenue has been to allow us to fill our mission of tallgrass prairie research, preservation, and education was to allow public access to paths on site, which have developed into what is a nationally recognized trail system that adds significant value to the local and broader Riley and Gary County community, as evidenced by an over 40,000 per users visiting us a year. This is funded by user donations, grants from the Carolyn Pine Foundation, the Nature Conservancy, Friends of the Konza Prairie Organization, and the Division of Biology. Because of such high use, our ability to do research on the trail portion of the ranch has been very diminished, but it's a price we're glad to bear. Properties in other Kansas counties have entered into partnerships with the Nature Conservancy because the owners wanted to do there, allowing public access to private property, what Konza has done here. It's the type of relationship we hope is a model coming without expense to local government, which we would hope to find Riley County making decisions to support rather than diminish. We do believe this proposal diminishes the experience of those flocking to the Konza daily and does not comply with points 3 and 6 of the Riley County Land Development Regulations on page 3 and 4 of the staff report for special use petition 23007, which is before you. Because of Konza and the other objections of equal or perhaps even greater value raised by other speakers and the letter writers that you have represented in front of you today, I, as a township board member, began communicating our concerns to Evergy promptly after learning of this proposal. I was grateful when they agreed to delay their request in March and meet with the township to discuss the issue and explore alternatives. We even contemplated locations on Konza which might be preferable to the proposal as a lesser of two evils. The meeting was enlightening, and we quickly came to the understanding that this switching station and the current proposal before you today is but one rung in a ladder which is ill-suited to our community. I do appreciate their honesty in that meeting. The current switching station, while performing some limited function as proposed, is to serve as an anchor point for yet another high voltage line running from this location west towards Ogden and impacting the entire Ashland community in the process. Yes, Evergy would have to return to this board to seek additional permissions for any additional plans beyond what is before you today. But I do not think that you can dismiss the evidence in the packet before you, repeatedly mentioning room for expansion. This is not a small project with no aspirations for becoming more, but rather the foothold into a much larger plan, which will impose a burden on Konza, the Ashland Cemetery, the Ashland community, and the rural agricultural aesthetic we have worked diligently to preserve. Repeatedly, we encouraged Evergy in that meeting to consider locating the line along K-18 from Static Hill, an already disturbed corridor and location where electrical expansion was unlikely. And as you heard in their own comments, that was outside of the scope of their initiative that they were tasked with completing. Their plans call for additional lines running to the same location in Ogden from Junction City, making the proposed line simply redundant. Yes, I concede redundancy has some value, but it is often a luxury and not a necessity. Regardless, that conversation and the plans discussed revealed several alternatives. Other options exist to satisfy the needs of Evergy and their customers. The current proposal should not be viewed as an imperative, not as a small independent request. It is a step in the wrong direction for our community and the many thousands from the rest of our region and beyond who value what our community has to offer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. At this time, if there's no other opponents within 1,000 feet, we take, would like for the applicant for a rebuttal. So if you have, the applicant have anything they would like to rebuttal against what you've heard, this is your time to do that.
Once again, Jessica Peck with Evergy. It's not necessarily a rebuttal. The paper that Lauren gave you with the transmission line, that's, I don't know where it came from. It's not from Evergy. Prior to doing a transmission line, we would do a routing study. That routing study would take 2 to 3 years. That routing study consists of open houses, public comment period, public input on where the routes would go. On our transmission lines, we try to work with the landowners as much as we can to cause the least amount of impact. So whatever you have in front of you, I don't know, it's not an Evergy document. I don't know where it came from. It is in no way what our plans are for the route. We might go west. I'm assuming we'll go west, but we don't have that route selected at all. We always get the site first and then do the routing study afterwards, because the site is the determining factor for a lot of stuff. The comment about expansion, we are building what the capacity is of that spot. All 300 by 300 will have the equipment that's currently going to be there. It's not going to have room for expansion. If it does expand, it'll be back in here. We'll be back up in front of this committee again for another approval or denial. The lights that were mentioned, these lights will be switch operated, will be on only in emergency situations. You will not have lights on all the time. During construction, you're probably gonna have some lights just due to security for the construction equipment, stuff like that. But when the substation is functioning, is operational, it's gonna be switch operated, it'll be on in emergency situations. Because you're gonna want to see this at that point. There was a comment about noise. There's no transformers here, there's no noise. It's switching stations, so. Don't think there's anything else, unless you guys had other additional questions from me, or if you had something else that you guys.
Rita, do you have some questions?
The yellow line, which isn't true, but if there was a line going in that general direction, that might be your question. Could that be installed without the switching station being in place? Like,
You need to go up to the.
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes.
because we would have no control over those poles.
So we would need a switching station be in place just to have, better operational use of the site, without the switching station, not a ability to put breakers and other things like that in there for system protection and those needs. So it is required for the additional transmission.
So the yellow line couldn't go in 2 weeks from now or however long it would take without the switch station being there. Okay.
So the power lines that are going up across there's pictures here by the Unitarian Church. They're replacing some poles that were there with much bigger poles.
So I don't know where the Unitarian Church is.
On Highway 18
So is it K-18 going, is it going,
East. Towards Zendale.
It'll be out east of town across the viaduct and then.
because I honestly do all transmission line permitting and that's not a
Be
project. that I-
Zedale Road is what.
Yeah.
So there's a pole replacement going on just north of or south of Manhattan.
It's just south of Manhattan.
Okay, just south of Manhattan, following the highway down to,
Wabaunsee. Zedale.
Zendale.
Down to Zedale.
Wait, no, it's going across.
Rust colored structures where they're like.
the single pole brown But that goes straight north and south.
Yeah, this line's going north and south.
Okay, so if it's the one that I'm thinking of, it's from our East Manhattan substation north or south to our he said McDowell. And that was a replacement for aging infrastructure, and some of it is on K-State property, and we worked very closely with the professor there to make sure that we didn't go on the property during, he has a crop study going, or a grazing study going on. But they were replaced with single, I think it was a double pole H-frame. That went back with a single pole steel structure, which takes up less space in the general scheme of things, because you have two poles. And
But that is not something that is going to this station here.
no, that line's completely different. It was a maintenance, it was a maintenance. The line was old, it needed to be replaced, and that's all it was.
Someplace, I think, from your documents, there was something about consulting with Kansas Department of Wildlife and
Mhm.
Parks about wildlife
Mhm.
or.
Correct. So
I
we,
didn't ever see what the results of that
They-
investigation was.
they determined, you have the results. correct?
I'm pulling it up right now.
I want to say they determined it was no effect, but we'll get the exact wording for it.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we have it. And then we also consulted with the State Historic Preservation Office as well. They requested a survey because of the archaeological possibility on the ground itself, and we did a survey there.
No objections.
No objections from Wildlife and Parks. Survey, cultural survey, not
In process.
in process. She's done it, but the report's not complete.
I think she still.
Okay, all right. So we will do a field work there to make sure that we're not disturbing historical artifacts.
Okay,
Rita,
And you showed the picture of the bigger switch station. Do you have a picture of one that's like the right size?
that's what I thought
Yeah.
about that from the very beginning. myself.
Like, I mean,
To be
No, I
honest with you, I
understand.
think it'd be more common to see an actual substation go in place. I mean, these switching stations are rare because I think there is need for future growth, and those the substations go in and they still have that same switching potential, but there's also transformers and other pieces of equipment to serve the area. Whereas here that we don't think that's going to be the case in the future. Therefore, it's only the size that it is because it has the switching facilities in there. So we don't have one honestly of the same size. That we could get a picture of, to be honest with you. We had another one in, yeah, we had some,
you know, the dimensions of the one of the picture that you showed us?
Which picture was that?
I don't.
Was the most curious, like.
Oh, what scale are we?
The person that got it first was on paternity leave.
I know it was in Southeast Kansas somewhere, but I'm not for sure exactly.
Okay, I was just wondering if it's half scale or some other. It's not right.
I think, yeah, I don't know what the
I
exact
don't know.
dimensions are here, but
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the dimensions on that one.
Fair enough.
Board have anything else for that?
no.
All right, it's been asked if we could take a 2-minute recess for the board. So we're gonna take a 2-minute recess and then we'll come back.
We have to make a motion for that. No, sorry, to leave this thing. Okay.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to say that. Joe? Yeah.
Are we gonna have more comments? Are we gonna have more comments? Or is this just the end?
Are we ready? Yeah.
Are we gonna have more comments?
Yeah, I believe that was just 1,000 foot.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I think that was just 1,000 foot period.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and reconvene our meeting so we can move along here, so we're not here all night. So if everybody will take their seats and we will continue on with our meeting. So at this time, we will have rebuttal from my opponents within 1,000 feet. Like I said, rebuttal of opponents within 1,000 feet. So, and you have, and I would, at this, when we're doing this, please do not reiterate anything that has been talked about. If something new, so that we can keep going, because we don't need, I mean, we've been hearing a lot of things this evening. So we want to keep it fresh, new ideas or new thoughts, whatever you have. So you only have about 2 minutes on this round. So
I only need about a minute. You all know the name Clarence Swallow.
no.
No, I don't.
He's a long time, he's gone now, but and he's in the cemetery, but his daughter Joy and son-in-law Brian, they're the source for that map out of Kansas City that shows proposed yellow line, red existing lines for Evergy. I did make a mistake. As an attorney, I have made a horrible mistake in not citing the image source. I apologize for that. But I assure you, he's not just painting a yellow line on a page there. He is saying, hey, look, this is looking like it's very real. And I believe him. So that's the Swallow family from the dead and the alive folks saying, this is the next step they're worried about, just as this particular switching station. And I think I'll get that citation and I will bring it to you as soon as I can.
Thank you.
And John,
Yes, Joe.
do we open it up to anybody that's outside?
Yes, that will be the next. Yep.
That's.
So at this,
We don't have.
Gee.
so at this time,
Thank you.
we'll have presentations and facts and opinions by other interest parties.
We just did that.
Other interest parties.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Alice Boyle. I live at 403 North 16th Street, Manhattan, Kansas. I'm ornithologist. I'm a professor in the Division of Biology. I've worked at the Konza Prairie for the last 10 years on grassland birds. And I support the many excellent human reasons for why this is a bad idea, but the new thing I want to bring to this is that I believe that this is a bad idea for conservation of our natural heritage in specifically the wildlife. My concerns of this are twofold. One is we risk mortality by migrating birds by these power lines, and the second one is habitat degradation. Even though this is not on Konza, tall structures, we know from a lot of research at this point, including work that I've done, that anything tall has a very long shadow, and it leads to avoidance of that area and effectively habitat loss for grassland birds. And the kinds of structures we see here would definitely have that kind of effect on adjacent lands within this site. I'm one of the people who's known about Konza Prairie long before I moved here, and who's is sort of a saying that you often don't value the things that are close to you, and it's the people from outside who show you how great it is. And the fact that this is even being considered next to Konza shows to me that the people outside of here have in some ways greater appreciation for these really threatened habitats. Our tall grass prairies are almost gone. We live in one of the last places where they exist. And even in the 10 years that I've been here, I'm seeing those birds disappear. And I don't want to stand by and watch them blink out.
Hello, I'm Mark Luthold. I live at 2861 West 32nd Avenue, Ashland Bottoms. I guess this is more of a question for maybe Evergy and maybe also in part for the board. But if we only need 2 acres for the switching station, why are we buying 12 or 13 acres if there's no plan for expansion? And also, if we're changing the zoning, are we changing the zoning on the 2 acres, or are we changing the zoning on the whole 12 acres? And so if they expand, do we go back through this procedure again, or can they just expand wherever they want to on all over on this 13 acres? So that's just the concern line, I guess. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
I need to address that question.
Yes, Bob, please do.
As far as size, it's more centered and things like that. It's not about expansion necessarily. This is not a rezoning. It's a special use for the underlying zoning district. And yes, what you see as a site plan, that is it for the decision. At this point, they decided to go forward and with some other projects and other plans and expand, they would have to go before this board again and go back before the Board of County Commission for decision. It's as simple as that. Regardless of how big it is now, it'll still have to come back.
But it is the 11 or so acres that is special use.
Yes.
Do you have any answer?
Yep. So if there's no other interest, yes, so the applicant, you may step back. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, ma'am. Ma'am, go ahead.
Good.
You were standing up there before, that's fine. Go ahead.
My name's Valerie Wright. I live at 3048 Shane Creek Lane, which is about 2 miles up the road from the Konza Prairie entrance. I am a retired educator from Konza Prairie. I worked there for 15 years. And I also worked very long and hard to help Manhattan, Kansas have the Flint Hills Discovery Center. Now, this has not been mentioned yet, but our community, Manhattan, spent several years, a lot of money and time and people involved in getting the Flint Hills Discovery Center for Manhattan. And
in our discussions, we spent a lot of time talking about McDowell Creek Road and bringing visitors to Manhattan. It was one of the most important things, most important reasons why the Flint Hills Discovery Center is there. So this is not a small idea of a small community, which I am part of, but it is a Manhattan problem if this goes in. It will change everything we talked about for putting the Discovery Center in Manhattan. Thank you.
Well, she was gonna be our last one, so,
I have more questions.
okay, go, all right,
Can I go ahead?
yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
if it's all right with you. Yeah, hang on a second. Okay,
My name is McKenna Eiler. I am, or my address is 908 Overhill Road, Manhattan, Kansas. I am a current K-State student and I've lived in Manhattan my whole life. So I just want to make a quick statement about not super anything in specific, but kind of how the comments have been made this evening. So have the representatives of Evergy certified their findings adequately and made you comfortable in voting yes, or have they placed more doubt in your minds, like they have myself? There seems to be a lot of questions in the presentation that cannot be resolved this evening, and I would recommend that the commission deny the request. That is all.
sir.
Just real shortly, for years. Can't
Please,
change it.
oh, state your name,
John
address,
Mansell, address is 5186 South 40th Street, Manhattan, Kansas. For years, I've looked around our country and thought, you know, these power lines are probably the worst thing we've done. We all want electricity, I understand that. But if you just look through your city, they're power lines, power poles, they're all over. And this is just an additional one in case something happens to the other one that they're wanting to send to Ogden. So we have all these power lines and now we want to duplicate them in case something happens over here. And it's question where we're headed.
Thank you. Just a couple more and then we'll go ahead. Just two more and then we're gonna go back to the applicant and they can state one last time, so.
In listening to the Evergy report tonight, and I'm an owner of Evergy, but I heard them indicate that the the stations shouldn't be too close together. And when questioned about the issue of whether or not the Stag Hill location would work, or something else that the Kansa has offered might work, I have a feeling it's more an economical issue. This might be the shortest, fastest route, so it's the cheapest for them, which is, I'm not worried about that. That's their problem. I'm worried about how it happens to the environment out here, the Kansa Prairie, the cemetery, the closeness to our church, and to the community center and all the activities that we have going as a very close-knit community. And I did not hear them actually say that whether or not that separate line from Stag Hill would actually be a problem. They never really, in my opinion, stated that it can't be there and still accomplish their goal of an alternative line going in. They alluded a bit, but they didn't give us the facts. So I think there should be a lot more work done by Evergy before this permit is ever considered. So I think it should be rejected.
Ma'am, you didn't state your name, I'm sorry.
I'm 89, I might forget my own. I'm Becky Lind and I live at 3550 McDowell Creek Road. I'm about 1.5 miles, or I guess maybe closer to 1 mile from the location.
All right, thank you. Okay, one more.
My name is Cindy Quinlan. I live at 14295 Lower McDowell Creek Road. I've lived out there for 44 years. I've done everything I could to protect the prairie. My grandfather was a professor at Quinlan at Kansas State. The visitor center at K-State Gardens is named for him. And he taught me many years ago that unfortunately Kansas has some of the least amount of public land of any state in America. And I've looked it up and he was right on at least 3 different counts. I volunteered out at Conza for at least 20 years. I know Valerie very well and a lot of these people here. And it's never ceased to amaze me that people who come out here to visit, whether they're from out of state or from out of country, it's the first place they go here. They don't even go to their hotels first. They don't stop to get anything to eat first. They go to Konza Prairie. Come on, why would you do anything at all to spoil the interest to that or the impression that those people get? Then, after they've hiked the trail and almost gotten blown over by the wind out there, then they go spend money at a hotel here or at a restaurant here or whatever. But when I heard of this Thursday night at 10:30 p.m., it blew my socks off and I've hardly slept since. I have notified every person, every email, every Facebook page that I could find about this. It just hit me like a punch in the gut, literally. The other thing that I wanted to bring up about this was I almost cry when I drive by the Ashland Cemetery. I know families who have children there that died by accidental suicide. I know a grandfather who goes there almost every week to visit that grave. It was the most incredibly decorated, tended graveyard I have ever seen in my life. Like somebody has said, they have little lights with solar battery chargers on it, on graves. They change the graves for every holiday. I just can't imagine interfering with that presence that they have out there. Saturday, I went out there at the trailhead and stood there and talked to people coming off the trail about this, and they were appalled. They were some of the people who came here first to the prairie, to the Konza, to see what it was again, if it was like home. And some of them have been there before many times. And again, this is their home away from home when they come here. Thank you.
We'll go with the one more rebuttal by the applicant, and then we're gonna move on with the vote.
Jessica Keck, Evergy. Couple questions. Someone had mentioned why the extra acreage. It's what we're optioned. It's what the landowner is willing to sell us. Sometimes we buy 4, 5, 6 times what we need, because that's what the landowner is willing to sell us. If we could only buy 2 to 3 acres, we need a little bit of workaround room during construction, but if we've only bought 2 to 3 acres, that's what we would have bought. But that's what the landowners offered us, and that's what we took. So it's a landowner preference 9 times out of 10, and this time it is a landowner preference. So part of the mention is, why don't you go here? It's a cost issue. We, as a company, are legally required to provide reliable, affordable electricity. So cost is a concern, but it's a concern for the community as a whole, because our costs go back to the ratepayers. They do. It's just a fact of it. So we are legally obligated to try to find the most cost-effective way to build what we need to build. If we move the substation farther away from our transmission line, we have to bring a transmission line into that substation. That does cost. Transmission lines cost, oh, don't quote me, but like $1 million a mile. So significant cost to get to that substation. So the closer we are to our transmission line, it is more affordable, and it's not all about profit. It's honestly about what goes back to the ratepayers. We're legally required to provide affordable electricity and reliable electricity. And then you'd asked a question earlier about Stag Hill, and I'm sorry, there's a lot of information floating around in my brain. I had gotten an email, I'm gonna read part of it, because it specifically states the Stag Hill part of it. And this is from one of our planners, so it's not for me, and they're a lot smarter than I am. But it said the transmission lines cannot be extended from Stag Hill west to the airport to a new substation sites due to FAA restrictions that make it impossible to build transmission voltage lines within a certain radius of the airport. Therefore, the lines must be constructed from the south so that they can be routed outside of the airport restrictions. And I deal with FAA regulations all the time because I do the permitting for transmission lines. And we do have like height restrictions coming off the runways. And that was one of the researches why they put us in this location. I didn't specifically run them on this because we're not looking at alignments.
So you'll go south of the river and then come back north to Ogden?
From the maps, it's kind of a straight shot, but like I said, it's not. If I could have this isn't my presentation. Yeah,
because I mean, if you go straight west, it's the airport area, it's airspace.
right. So if we would have to go south and then probably come up with it, if that's how it is. Where's the one of the big, yeah. Yeah, we would likely have to come up north after the airport. We can't go south. That makes sense.
So there was one comment that was made just previously, and it was about the height of the switch station. Can you tell us here this evening the approximate height of the switch station?
Of the actual
Of the
equipment in there, because
actual equipment and everything in that switch station.
because some of what you see is the transmission pole, which are the tall structures that are going north and south already currently.
Right.
You'll have to have one that dead ends and goes into the switching station.
Correct.
The highest poles on a switching station?
So you're talking about the actual like crawl down structures?
Yes.
I'm not for sure what the exact height, 60 to 80 feet somewhere.
No, not the dead end, the actual.
You're talking about the.
We're
talking about the actual switching.
Yes.
Yeah, about 10 to 15 feet would be right the bus structures that you saw there with that aluminum.
Yeah.
You said 10 to 15 feet tall is the only taller that it would be inside the wire.
Equipment within the substation, that's the probably the height range.
Okay.
But then you have the tall poles going.
But
This
they,
is it.
Yeah.
This is the transmission pole.
but they have.
Yeah, we call those crawl
Yeah,
down
okay.
structures so that the transmission conductor dead ends there and then you see it come down the pole and then connect to that aluminum.
Yeah,
that
okay.
That makes sense.
But yeah, all this would be what, 10 to 15 feet?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that was asked earlier about, or the comment was made about being too high and things like that. Okay.
Yep.
That's clarity on that. Okay. Does any of the board members have anything else before we close public hearing?
Oh,
Yes, go ahead.
sorry. Thank you. The switching station that we just showed is about double the size
Oh, thank you.
of the other one. And we can pull up an aerial of a smaller one, but it's not something that we would be able to throw up here, but it's double the size of what this one.
This one here, what's double the size of
Yes.
the one that's gonna be here,
Correct.
would be is proposed.
Correct.
Yeah, that's about right.
Thanks. Anything else? Board have anything else? All right. No, we're gonna close it down. All right. So at this time, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and go into the board's deliberation?
I'll move that we close the public hearing.
Would you take any questions?
Of second. It's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing and go into the deliberation mode. All those in favor say aye.
Yeah.
All those opposed? Motion carried 4-0. So at this time, we're going to go into our deliberation mode. We're going to talk between ourselves. There may be some comments made. We prefer that everybody not jump up or say anything because we've closed the public hearing part at this time. So I guess I'm going to start out by saying one thing. I hope this doesn't sound mean or anything, but in the last year and a half, there was a special use condition for a new Riley County Fire Station number one. The land was bought from the people that owned around the Ashland Cemetery. And that the new fire station that is going to be, that we're taking bids on right now, will be constructed in the next 6 to 8 months. And at that time of the special use condition hearing, there was nobody in this room from Ashland Bottoms came to say anything about the new fire station being built on the corner of the Ashland Cemetery. So there was a lot of talk tonight. I respect cemeteries. My folks have a cemetery out of the corner of our Kevin pasture that I look at every day. Yes, it is a very sacred place, but I guess I'm just saying that there was nobody here to say, oppose the new fire station that's going to be built there. So anyhow, Diane, we'll start with you with our deliberation mode. And, so.
Well, I have been thinking.
Hey, so during this time, I would like for everybody to be silent. That's disrespectful if you guys are talking amongst each other. So I'm going to run a pretty tight ship here. If you think I'm being a little overboard, I am, because I want everybody to be quiet. So thank you. Diane.
I've given this a lot of thought because, we farm out in that area and stuff, and it's something I'll be looking at and stuff. But then I think back to Vision 2025, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's the guideline that guides us in the decision we made. And here's the book. I was on the task force in 2009 that did this book and stuff. And we were looking at the next 25 years as to what did we want Riley County to look like. And there were a lot of non-agricultural people on this task force. But it made me feel good, because the one thing that really came through was they wanted to preserve the rural character of Riley County. And so that is written into, we have a chapter 5 is about the rural character of the county. And we have the rural character goal is to promote development that is compatible with rural character in Riley County. And then we have rural design guidelines, preserve the existing agricultural character of the county's landscape, preserve valuable farmland and productive agriculture areas, preserve wildlife and habitat, protect ground and surface water quality. I guess being a farmer and stuff, that the land it's pretty sacred to me and stuff. And so I take this position here very seriously when we are talking about agricultural land and what we're going to do with it. Personally, this is just the wrong place for this substation. The cemetery being there, and I have relatives in the cemetery, and the fact that the prairie, Konza Prairie is there, it's just, I don't know, it's, I understand that we need the electricity and everything, but I just think this is not the right place for it. That there's surely someplace else that we could figure out to do this and stuff, that it would be keeping more with the guidelines that we have within the state.
Okay.
So that's where I come from.
Okay. Rita?
And I understand electricity is a lifeline service. You need electricity. I have an engineering background. I'm mechanical. I've worked on power plants. I don't do the electric stuff. I don't really know exactly, so it needs to go a certain direction. You know, if there's a way to put it in that it would blend with the landscape, except for the poles, which we have no control over. I mean, there's lots of things you can see from on top of hills. Things you probably don't want to see, but have no control over. But if we could somehow have control over what it looks like to have minimal impact, if that's the only place it could go. That would be my concern is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Does it have walls? Could you do walls around it or native grasses or something to make it blend more?
Further from the road.
Further from the road.
Lots of office grass around the outside.
I was thinking native grasses that were
Native grass.
sustainable and maintainable. But something like that would make it less visible. Can I ask a question to Bob or Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay, where's my question? I've lost it. It's on the piece of paper. Said Bob next to it. Where'd it go? It said Bob and Amanda. I know in certain states, I've heard from people in those states that they have view shed regulations, like you're looking at a pretty beach, you can't build your house 2 stories and block out your neighbor. Does Kansas have any regulations on view sheds, and has Riley County ever considered doing like a view shed study or regulations
I
to
think back
that
at the
nature?
time that we were doing the Vision 2025, there was some talk about that, but it got complicated quick. We understand that the cons is a tourist draw. There's no doubt about it. It's also a research station.
Anything else?
That was it.
Joe?
I think I'm happy with that this just isn't the right location for this. It's just too close to the road, impacts the scenic drive into Manhattan. There's just, I got a feeling there's gotta be a better place for this.
So, yes, in my thoughts, as I drove out there tonight and I drive down that way on occasion. That's my mom kind of grew up down in that country, and it's, yeah, being that close to the county road or to McDowell Creek Road. It's, if it sat off, you know, if it sat on the backside of the property underneath there, it would probably be a little bit more aesthetic, you know, to the people, maybe not, I don't know. I mean, I understand what all these people say in here. I live at the very north end of the county. I live in a beautiful community, and fortunately, we don't have power lines and transmission lines. My friends to the north in Marshall County, they got wind power. They're putting in transmission lines. Their landscape is just completely changed. It's horrible. I'm sorry. It's, you know, I'm finally getting used to the lights even where I live at, and it's 13, 15, 20 miles away. You see blinking lights. I would not really want it, and I would not want it in northern Raleigh County on Sweet Creek either. So, I would like to think that there would be a better location, you know, for this. So being that said, I think we time for an emotion to
Emotion.
yeah, it could be emotion, a motion on this evening's petition. So,
Well, let me ask you this.
Who are you talking?
You.
about? Okay.
You.
Oh, me, okay.
You or-
Putting me on the spot.
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Or Bob and Amanda.
Okay, all right.
If we deny this right now. I mean, what, can
We're-
they come back with another proposal of a different place? I
So,
mean, someplace that,
so the motion that we make this evening is just a recommendation of
right,
the
of denial.
denial
Yeah.
to the Board of County
That's true.
Commissioners.
That's true. I'm sorry. I
So
forgot about that. Yes.
therefore, we are expressing our opinion to the Board of County Commissioners because they have appointed us as a board to work for them. So that's the way this is going to work. And we hope that the Board of County Commissioners understand where we came from. Hopefully they read some of the materials, the testimonials tonight, both sides of the fence. So that's the way this will work. So we are recommending to the Board of County Commissioners is all we are doing.
Okay,
Yep.
so,
And there could be a C option, I don't know. Because there's only A and B on there, but there's a C option I came up with,
Okay,
but I don't know if you want to consider that. Because of that option, rather than have to say the C option. On the first one,
oh, there was,
Uh-huh.
not on for a denial or for an
yeah,
approval.
for a table,
Oh, for an, okay.
no, okay.
not as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
So,
John, question.
yes, Joe.
Whether we approve or deny, the county still has the final
The
decision.
county commissioners will have the final say on this. We are just recommending what our findings are for this hearing. Correct, Bob?
And if I'm correct, they made a proposal sometime back to deny, but the county turned on it
Yep.
and approved it. If I might remember.
Is that going back to the agritourism?
I can't remember which it was. I just
Okay.
recall that we did something and they did it differently.
Well, there's been a number of things that's, yes, there's throughout, yeah. It's happened more than once, just not with the planning and zoning, but with other.
Okay.
Other things of Raleigh County that they're investigating. Yep, so. Anyhow,
In light of that then?
so here
Mr.
you
Chairman?
have,
No, I don't have.
there's,
Director Tracy?
well,
No.
in the second deal that. by Bob,
Reasons as well.
Okay. I can remember them all. Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend denial of the request of the special use authorization for the subject property to establish and operate an electrical substation at a site generally located approximately 1,900 feet southwest of West 32nd Avenue on the north side of McDowell Creek Road for the following reasons. It doesn't fit with the Vision 2025 Chapter 5 rural character of Riley County. I don't know how to say this one. I don't feel that it is a good place for for it to be. That it's too close to the road. What else do I?
Not a
need in-
suitable location.
Not a suitable location. What else do I need in there? Either of you got something?
Rita, you had a whole list of stuff. The aesthetic,
What were the first two?
doesn't fit in with the 2025 comprehensive plan. Number two, one,
Chapter 5.
chapter 5. And local suitable for, the location is not suitable.
I mean, does number one cover the surrounding agricultural area? pretty
Yeah.
much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
You
rural
don't need to
character.
read down the rural character.
Concept Prairie, that it's a conflict with that. For everything that Concept Prairie stands for.
I got something.
Do we need to say anything about the support and non-support. All the letters and everything.
Yeah, you could put that as well.
And then Tom's Prairie, you say there's an impact on the view sheds from Tom's Prairie. The view shed or view shed, or however you want to say it.
So what?
An impact on the view shed from Tom's Prairie. I guess is how you
You know,
describe
and
it.
another thing that I took in.
We're talking about a motion here, so don't get too
Well, no,
far
no,
off.
this is something-
Okay,
Another thing I took into consideration with this was the people on the township board represent
yes.
that
people,
township,
For people.
and they were even against it.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that carried weight with me too. That, that their elected officials weren't supportive of it either.
That is significant because we very rarely ever hear from township boards.
Right, that's right, exactly, we do not.
Yeah.
So,
So that is significant.
okay,
So plus just the fact of all the people that are here tonight.
Yeah.
too.
so Diane has the motion. Need a second for her motion.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve recommendation of denial requested for the special use authorization for the subject property to establish and operate an electrical substation at the site generally located approximately 1,900 feet southwest of West 23rd, 32nd Avenue on the north side of McDowell Creek Road for the following reasons. Does not fit into the 2025 Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 5. Is not a suitable location. It conflicts with Konza Prairie.
Impact on view shed.
Impact on view shed, and that the township officials were
Not supportive.
not supportive of this as well. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed. The motion carries 4-0 to deny the request.
Actually, I was gonna abstain. So 3-0.
Oh, 3-0. Okay. So it still passes to, so. All right, that concludes our meeting for this evening. I would like to thank everybody on both sides of the party for your insight this evening. I thank you for the way that it went, and see you down the road.
So I still need to make a quick
Yep.
announcement to everybody. The Board of County Commissioners will hear this request. May 1st at 10:15 a.m. in these chambers. Now understand this, that part of their process is they could send this back to you
Yeah.
for reconsideration.
But it may so be, Bob. Or not. Lord knows. It's never came back yet.
Yeah. So I just want to let you know that they have that. That's it. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, guys. Meeting is adjourned. What do we got?
Wait.
We have,
No, who's gonna move to adjourn?
oh, yeah, so do I have a motion for adjournment? Second, do I have a second?
Seconded? Joe.
Yeah. All those in favor that we adjourn, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion's carried. Thank you, everybody. Oh.